Love yours. Love yours. No such thing.
Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to Kevon's Life. I'm Kevon. Today's video is all about crocheting as a plus size girl. So if you're living in a bigger body like me and you like to crochet or want to get into crocheting, I wanted to make a video talking a little bit about my experience as a new crocheter and also as someone who is plus size. In this video, I want to share some tips and tricks and hopefully some inspo to help you get started on your crochet journey in order to take a little bit of the headache away from making crochet wearables so that this experience is enjoyable and so that you can tailor it to your needs as a plus size person. For a little bit of background, if you're new here, I learned how to crochet at the end of January 2024. So I've been crocheting for about 7-8 months and I've made quite a few wearable pieces. I think I've made 4 wearables so far, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not in love with every single one. Like, each one that I've made needs to be tweaked still and is far from perfect. So choosing the right yarn is critical to the success of your crochet wearables. My favorite yarn so far has been the Sugar and Cream cotton yarn because it's stiff. I personally love the fact that it's super stiff because I feel like that gives me a little bit more support in my clothing, especially as I'm making shirts that are wearables. I'm a part of the Big Yitty Committee. So I need something to hold these girls in place. And so a stiffer yarn I prefer. That is one of the complaints about some of the other crochet girlies, is that the Sugar and Cream cotton yarn is just too stiff to work with. But I found that I really prefer it over some other cotton yarns that I've tried. I made a corset with a different brand of cotton yarn. I'll see if I can find it and pop it up on the screen. But I found that yarn was just too stretchy for me, and it was also a cotton yarn. So I'm gonna be remaking this corset, the same corset, and I'm gonna use the Sugar and Cream cotton yarn just to see if it holds the stiffness like I like, and gives me a little bit more of a corset vibe, in addition to me lacing it up. The stiffness I think will be really helpful. I've made 2 other wearables with just regular acrylic yarn, and if you know, acrylic yarn stretches quite a bit, so also something to keep in mind as you're making crochet wearables. For my next tip for jumping into crochet wearables as a plus size person is to just go for it, girl. If you are a newbie, please don't think that wearables are a daunting project. And I know we're living in bigger bodies, so you look at crochet inspo and you look at smaller women who have crocheted these items, and then you look at the pattern and you're like, that's gonna take me triple the amount of time, triple the amount of yarn to complete that for my body. It's a big commitment to get yarn across your body, but I just recommend jumping right into it. Take it one stitch at a time. If you feel like you have stitched up a side panel of a top and you're like, wow, I still have the whole side to go, or I need to cover my big back, I've been there. Just set it down and move along and go back to it when you're ready. There is no rush. If you're a newbie crocheter, I also recommend jumping in to learning various stitches. At the very beginning, I went to these crochet meetups and the girls were teaching me all kinds of stitches. Like, this is how you make a flower, and it's got a treble crochet, a double crochet, a half double crochet. And I'm like, this is a lot going on. But it was great for me to hear the names of the stitches and see them, because then I could go home and practice, or then I could go home and get on TikTok and not be confused about hearing somebody say a half double crochet or a treble crochet. I was like, oh, okay, I've heard that before. So I highly recommend learning more than one stitch in the beginning of your crochet journey. Learn more than a single crochet. Learn it all at once and just practice, 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 practice. I got very comfortable with all the pretty basic various stitches, so that when I encountered patterns that I wanted to make, I wasn't hung up on, oh, I have to go to YouTube and figure out how to make this. I was pretty comfortable with at least 4 or 5 different stitches in the very beginning. So I recommend diving right in. Just go for it. Learning various stitches will give you a solid foundation for jumping into projects. But let's talk about finding inspiration. I've spent many hours just setting up my Pinterest crochet inspiration board and finding things that inspire me. Whether or not the wearables that I see on Pinterest are on bodies that look like mine, I'm still gonna save it and I'm gonna figure out how to adapt it to my body and what I need. Use social media to your advantage. Find inspo, find community, ask questions. When I first saw this corset that I wanted to try, I took it to my crochet meetup and was like, this is how I'm thinking I want to approach this. And one of the girls at the group was like, yeah girl, go for it. The stitches aren't complicated. It actually looks kind of rugged anyway. So she was like, it's a great beginner project. It looks like all double crochets mostly. You know, this is how you do this. She gave me recommendations. So for the crochet corset that I found on Pinterest, I pretty much just freehanded that thing. Or I would say, don't be afraid to take a look at things that you see on Pinterest. Zoom in, see what's going on in there, and then just go for it. Highly recommend saving anything that stands out to you. Don't be afraid to tackle it. But I just really recommend using social media to help you find inspo and stay inspired. Let's get into the real of being a plus size crochet girl. The patterns are not size inclusive most of the time. I'm just keeping it a buck. It's hard to find patterns for women who have bodies that look like mine, or find patterns that go past an extra large. So actually making the pieces, once you figure out kind of a gauge for how to measure your body, what your measurements are, it might take you a few goes to kind of figure out, you know, how big I need to make this, or how do I adjust this pattern to fit my body. But I recommend just going for it, and don't be afraid to frog your projects. This top, I made this top. This was the first wearable that I made from Passionate Kelsey. This is her Peekaboo top. I frogged it like 3 times. I'm pretty sure I got halfway here and undid the whole thing in the airport. So don't be afraid to restart your projects if you don't think it's working. Now, let's chat about the projects that I've actually made. Like I showed you earlier, this was my first top that I made. I haven't actually worn it in public because, number one, the shirt has a lot of back, and I don't know if I'm that confident to have my big back out. So that's one piece of it. And the second piece is that my boobs tend to migrate towards the center, and so sometimes it actually is a peekaboo, and I don't want those problems in public. So this is very much like a photo op picture, and I'm okay with that. I'm very proud of the fact that I completed the project. So yeah, for this to be one of my earlier projects, I made this top in February, I believe. So I had started learning how to crochet at the end of January, so made this very early on and just went for it, and this is the finished product. I will say that going back to not being afraid to make adjustments as you need to fit your body type, the length of chain that was recommended for my size top just was not long enough. I had to go back and add like 150 additional stitches. So the string is a little messy here, but it is what it is. I had to make it work for me. So that is what I did with this top. I'm very proud of it. Just a little nervous to wear it out in public, but she's cute. The second piece that I made is a skirt. I made this with the goal to wear it on a cruise. Spoiler alert, I didn't actually wear it on a cruise, but that's all right. So this skirt is just a bunch of granny squares, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. I just spent a lot of time making a ton of granny squares. I actually made too many granny squares, but that's fine. Practice. So I ended up putting this skirt together, and I learned a lot from this project. I learned that acrylic stretches a lot, and when you're measuring your body, take away inches after that because the acrylic stretches it. So I'm finding that whenever I make wearables that actually end up being too big, I actually had the intentions to make a 2-piece set, but I was on a tight deadline, so I didn't have time to make the top for the cruise. So the skirt got finished, but I didn't make the top. The good news is I did get around to making the top. I actually finished her like 3 weeks ago, honestly. And I'm gonna pop up the creator whose tutorial I followed. Her top was so cute, and so I wanted to try it on my own. So I wanted to make one for myself. This is another example of the top being too big. So like I said, I finished her 3 weeks ago, so she very much still has the strings and everything because I just haven't wrapped up the whole project like that. but this is the top. And I realized that I actually, again, am still learning how to count my stitches and count rows, because apparently one of these cups is bigger than the other. I can't see it for some reason. I keep staring at this top and I'm like, I'm not seeing it, but everybody else sees it, so there's something wrong with these boob cups, but that's fine. That's fine, because I haven't worn this out in public yet. But this top is very cute. It's got a super cute like scallopy detail for the sleeve, and it makes like a cap sleeve almost. Back it laces up. I just did single crochets and then single crochets back down to make the strap a little bit thicker to accommodate my plus size body and large chest area. One more adjustment that I made compared to the creator's top that I showed you earlier, her top was a lot more baggy, and so I spent a lot more time making longer panels to cover up pretty much my whole back. I don't want no strings and bare back being shown. Spent a lot of time. That's a very long panel to cover up my big back. So another adjustment that you don't need to be afraid to make. So this is the top to go with the granny square skirt. So she's very cute. And my last piece that I want to talk about, I actually couldn't find it. I don't know where it is. I took it on a trip. I'm not sure where I put it. But it's a crochet corset. She turned out to be too big. So this is another example of how I tend to make my wearables too big. I definitely could have taken some inches off, because by the end of the night she had stretched out real bad, and so I was like struggling to keep her up. She was so stretched out. So when I make this next corset, I'm going to use a different cotton yarn and take away some inches. So as much as I love that corset, I'm still figuring out how to make adjustments to meet my body and actually be able to make these pieces functional. But I'm in love with that top. She's so cute. And also for the cord on that corset, I knitted an I-cord. I have a vlog talking a little bit about this corset, so I'll pop up the link. But I knitted an I-cord, which is very nice because it's way less stretchy. So I recommend that also in comparison to just regular single crochet chains for cords that you might be using to tie up your tops. Those are all the tips I have to share with you about crocheting wearables as a plus size girl. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you yourself are a plus size girl and you also have some tips and tricks that I didn't mention in the video today, leave them down below. As always, thank you for watching. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Leave me love down in the comments. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Hit the like button, and I'll catch y'all in my next video. Bye.